I believe you have a book you want to review this week.
It's
How about
true.
You start us
do.
off?
So I'm going to be reviewing The Woman in Me by Brittany Spears. Brittany Spears was born in Macomb, Mississippi in 1981 and grew up in Kentwood, Louisiana. In 1992, she was a member of the Mickey Mouse Club alongside Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling, and Kerry Russell. Her debut album, Baby One More Time, was released in 1999 and sparked the beginning of a very successful and lengthy career as a musical performer. She has been under the scrutiny of the public for decades and has been forced to endure many difficulties in her life, including the conservatorship she was involuntarily placed under for nearly 14 years. She is now retired as a singer, and her memoir, The Woman in Me, was published in 2023. This was a great book. I really, really enjoyed it, for lack of a better word. Obviously, It's kind of hard to read at times because Brittany Spears had she has had a very tragic life. But something that I noticed about the book too, early on in the book, she is kind of talking about her father and her mother's parents and kind of so her family a little bit further back, and they had really rough lives as well. So it kind of goes to show that yes, it wasn't okay what happened to Brittany herself, but it kind of came from a place that her father was abused as well. And so it's just, so she has a really dark family history, which was an interesting tone to start the book on. I was like, oh damn, okay, this is not going to be a light, easy read in any way. But it was really, really good. She, through this book, was very open and honest and self-aware, because obviously a lot of people who know of Britney Spears know oh, remember in 2007 or whatever when she went crazy and shaved her head, and she's had all these moments where everyone has been watching her, and she's been under a microscope for decades. And so she talks about those things. She's well, this is what I was feeling when that happened. I was going through this and this, and and when through reading it, I'm oh, that makes perfect sense. I know, I now understand why she did all the things that she did, and it so it adds a lot of context to her story.
That's cool.
And she doesn't try and be okay, so now I'm I'm a perfect person and everything is all good. She acknowledges that she's made mistakes and things that she's done maybe weren't okay or whatever at the time. And so it's just very self-reflective in a beautiful way.
Cool.
And so that part of it was really good, but it also is very kind of juicy, I would say, in a celebrity gossip kind of way. If you've ever wanted to know the juicy details of things that she went through, and she talks about Justin Timberlake a lot because she dated him for a long time and went through a really crazy time with him, and so she talks about all of that at length. And she also talks about people who really helped her, Paris Hilton was a really good friend to her, and Madonna was really kind to her. And so it was interesting just to hear those little tidbits and learning more about other celebrities, just because I find that stuff interesting. But there's also some kind of random fun things that she mentioned as well. She was in the movie Crossroads, of course, in 2002, I think it was. She was the star of this movie, and it was the only movie she ever did because she said she went too method and she forgot who she was. She became the character, and she was I don't want that to happen again.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, and so just things like that. And also she apparently, I don't know if I can't remember if she said she auditioned for it or if she was just offered, but she might have been in The Notebook instead of Rachel McAdams. That was a thing that was happening. She was maybe she was in the running for that role. Isn't that
so
weird?
Confusing.
Isn't that weird to think about?
Yes.
So I thought that was very interesting. I just made a little note of that. I was I want to make sure to write that down. But another
Have
thing.
you seen Crossroads?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Is it good?
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I really loved it when I was 9 years old or whatever it was. Because for those, I mean, why would anybody know this? But I was a really big Britney Spears fan when I was a kid, and she was actually my first concert I ever went to. I saw her in 1999 when I was just 5 years old. I fell asleep partway through because it was late at night. But it's funny, I actually remember it. That's one of my core memories. Is I remember sitting on my mom's lap, seeing Britney through some binoculars, and then I also remember laying in her arms, being asleep. But yeah, so I've loved Britney for a long time, and so when Crossroads came out, I was I have to watch this, and it is good. But I remember there's some kind of dark stuff in there too that as a kid I didn't understand. I was oh, what's going on there? But I have been meaning to rewatch it. I feel it's probably not good, but I feel it's a fun movie for the most part. But But yeah, so all in all, I really enjoyed this. Oh, I should also mention that the audiobook was really good. I know I talked about it a little bit last week, but the audiobook is read by actress Michelle Williams, and there's an introduction that Brittany reads, and she basically just explains, like, some of the stuff in this book is, like, way too much for me to kind of, like, even just writing this book was difficult, so having to, like, read it aloud would be just too much, and so they had Michelle Williams read it, and she did a fantastic job. It felt like I was listening to Brittany, even though their voices don't sound similar. Like, after a while I was just like, oh yeah, like their voices kind of like melded together in a beautiful way in my mind. So it was really good. Really cool. And I highly recommend it for anybody who is interested in the topic at all.
Oops, I Did It Again was the first album I ever bought.
Oh, I love that.
I remember that I really wanted to have that album, so we went to the mall and got it, probably at HMV or Sunrise.
Oh, that's beautiful. I remember having it on like a tape, and I had this like yellow tape deck thing with my little headphones.
Yeah.
And I just remember my friends and I would just like make up dances and sing the songs and stuff. Like, oh yeah, I have all these memories that are associated with Brittany.
I feel disappointed in that cover. Yeah. The book cover on that book, I think, does a massive disservice to everything I've heard about the book. Because it looks like any other celebrity memoir. It doesn't look like... Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look serious, I guess.
That's true. But it's like really like deeply serious. It's like one of the most serious memoirs I've ever read.
Exactly. It sounds deeply serious and like really like emotional and everything. And so I feel like, I don't know, I actually genuinely always thought it wasn't that serious because of that cover, which I think is a real shame.
Yeah. So, PSA, it's very serious, and check it out.